I were a cynic, I'd say Valentine's Day is a commercial scam dreamed up by companies to make you spend way too much money on your significant other in some vain, egotistical show of affection to the wider world. And I am a cynic, so I will say that. Pink, fluffy, jewel-encrusted, all things sickly sweet, including me, are broken out on Valentine's Day. And of course, the same is done for movies. Films featuring doe-eyed snoggers declaring their never-ending love for each other flood both cinemas and TV screens, but to that I say, no more. While for some the 14th of February is the day to snuggle up with a non-threatening romantic comedy and an edible thong, some might find it to be the perfect day for the polar opposite. Movies in which true love does not conquer all, but real goddamn life comes crashing in instead. Happy Valentine's Day, losers! Here's the best movies that will really go down a treat with that pink champagne and milk tray. Don't choke on it. I am Lady Cupid herself, Ash from What Culture, and these are the 10 best anti-Valentine's Day movies. You're welcome. 10. Heathers. Conceived as an angry reaction against the John Hughes high school comedy model of the time, 1988's Heathers is also a wonderfully macabre twist on the romantic comedy, which still has not lost its sting 30 years later. Winona Ryder is Veronica, a popular girl thanks to her association with an elite clique of girls with the same first name, Heather. However, Veronica is quickly losing patience with their backstabbing, superficial ways. Enter Christian Slater as JD to sweep her off her feet, the enigmatic new kid at school and a walking bad boy cliché with his long black coat and Aggie personality. Veronica, we have all been there. Heathers has always been a biting satire on life as a high school student, but it is also a dark antidote to your standard movie romance, questioning love at first sight and demonstrating how easy it is to lose yourself and better judgment when you are caught up with someone's motorcycle. 9. The War of the Roses. No, not that one. The War of the Roses is an adaptation of the novel by Warren Adler and centers on wealthy couple Oliver and Barbara Rose, whose seemingly idyllic marriage hides a deep-set mutual hatred. And of course, as Oliver and Barbara's contempt of one another intensifies, so too do their attempts to murder one another. Oh, to feel love's keen sting once more. The fact that Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner were, at the time, regarded as two of the premier sex symbols in Hollywood and had played off so nicely against one another in the past only makes their downward spiral more effective and darkly funny. As the movie's original poster rightly declared, once in a lifetime comes a motion picture that makes you feel like falling in love all over again. This is not that movie. 8. Closer. Audiences were lured into Closer by the sexy cast and the promise of some full-on raunchy behaviour. Oi oi. However, the 2004 movie is in fact a devastatingly downbeat examination of relationships and sexuality, less likely to leave couples in the porking mood than it is to leave them questioning their whole partnership. Plot-wise, it is all a bit tricky to surmise, set as it is over the course of a number of years and following the complicated relationship of Jude Law's writer, Julia Roberts' photographer, Clive Owen's dermatologist, and Natalie Portman's stripper, all of whom wind up in some sense cheating on one another with one another. What can we call a four-sided love triangle? A love square? A love cuboid? It's definitely 2D. A square. We'll go for a square. While its affluent London high society setting may be alienating and off-putting for many of us, there is no denying that the film is a doozy and the perfect remedy to your anti-Valentine's sentiments. 7. Body of Evidence. The erotic thriller genre was a serious cash cow that was milked, in more ways than one, by the mid-1990s. After Basic Instinct, nothing was hotter in Hollywood than a sexed-up murder mystery which required its stars to be naked a lot. What more could you want from a movie? Body of Evidence was the first major attempt to out-sleaze Basic Instinct, which casts Madonna, and that should get your alarm bells ringing already, as a femme fatale charged with the murder of her lover, who's an older and wealthier man, of course, after he died during intercourse with her. I like this already. Willem Dafoe plays the lawyer assigned to her defense, who naturally breaks every rule in the book by entering into an affair with his client. Things quickly get kinky, most notoriously in a moment when she ties him down and pours hot candle wax all over his exposed bits and bobs. The harder Body of Evidence tries to be shocking and saucy, the more entertaining it becomes, all of which makes it the best/worst erotic movie for anti-Valentine's viewing. 6. Guilty of Romance. Japanese writer-director Sion Sono has quite a knack for crafting intelligent, sophisticated and compelling blends of art house and exploitation, which prove so devastatingly intense that you're unlikely to want to sit through them a second time. This is especially true of Guilty of Romance, which casts the filmmaker's real-life wife, Megumi Kagurazaka, as Izumi, a sheltered suburban housewife stuck in a seemingly loveless, passion-free marriage, which is ironic considering that her husband is a prominent romance novelist. Anxious to find some spark of excitement in her life, Izumi heads out to the wider world where she finds herself offered modelling work, which, of course, turns out to be a porno. Ugh. Guilty of Romance may boast a very good-looking cast and an abundance of sex and nudity, but it is such a painful examination of a woman's gradual nervous breakdown, not to mention the breakdown of her marriage as well, that it seems less than appropriate to class it as an erotic thriller, even though it might fit the genre in many ways. 5. The Loved Ones. For a great many years, Hollywood has been selling teenagers the dream of the perfect prom night, another supposed rite of passage which has become so desired that even us over here started buying into the concept. Of course, Hollywood has also shown us how the prom night dream can rapidly turn sour, most famously in Carrie. However, 2009 Australian horror The Loved Ones gives us perhaps our most unsettling and eerily plausible vision of the lengths one unhinged girl and her doting father will go to for her dream of being queen of the high school dance. Robin McLeavy is Lola, a social outcast who longs for romance and popularity, but when this is not forthcoming, she takes a somewhat unorthodox approach to fulfill her desires, abducting her dream boy, Brent, for the purposes of a dance in her own home, with hideous torture ensuing if things don't go the way she wants them to. Ah, yes, lovely. 4. 68 Kill. A more recent example of an anti-Valentine's movie is 68 Kill, in which a hapless young man's weakness for the ladies repeatedly lands him up the Minge Creek without a paddle. Based on the novel by Brian Smith, 68 Kill follows Chip, a nervous trailer park resident helplessly smitten with his clearly abusive girlfriend. When she bullies him into helping her break into her landlord's lavish house in order to steal $68,000 in his safe, Chip submissively bends to her will. But once the money is in their hands, things naturally get a whole lot crazier. Given what a button-pushing topic gender roles can be these days, 68 Kills certainly invites debate as to whether it's feminist, misogynistic, or some weird combination of the two. But either way, it makes for blackly humorous and often quite startling, and at times enormously unpleasant viewing. Definitely a first date movie then. 3. HELLRAISER. A love story for the ages. Given how iconic Doug Bradley's Pinhead became, it is often forgotten that the real central narrative thrust of Clive Barker's 1987 horror classic is the forbidden desire of middle-aged wife Julia for her brother-in-law Frank. A bad boy hedonist whose search for pleasure leads him into the hands of the demonic Cenobites, who leave him less than half the man he was, quite literally. The real stinger of it all is, whilst Julia thinks, or at least deludes herself, that she is betraying her husband and committing murder because real love exists between her and Frank, the reality is that Frank does not reciprocate her feelings and is simply manipulating her to get what he wants. Typical, huh? Not the most optimistic look at the things we do for love, but then we shouldn't go anticipating anything too upbeat from a movie centred on a bunch of otherworldly sadomasochists who tear their victims limb from limb with hooks and chains. There you go. 2. Taxi Driver. Few films showcase a would-be romance that goes so wildly wrong and leads to such horrific consequences as Martin Scorsese's massively acclaimed but always controversial 1976 film. Before he buys a load of guns and shaves down to a mohawk, Robert De Niro's Vietnam veteran turned New York cab driver Travis Bickle seems troubled and slightly scary, but ultimately a well-meaning kind of guy who is love-struck with Betsy. Following a first date from hell where Bickle takes Betsy to see a Swedish sex education film, she unsurprisingly hightails it out of there. Yet Bickle, unable to take the hint, repeatedly attempts to patch things up. His inability to handle this rejection, in conjunction with his myriad frustrations with post-war life in New York, sets Bickle down the path that leads to his self-styling as some sort of urban warrior. To this day, Taxi Driver inspires mixed readings, with some holding up Travis Bickle as a bona fide hero and others rightly acknowledging his obvious delusions. 1. Vertigo. Is there any anti-romantic movie held in higher regard than this? It may have been widely hailed by critics as one of the greatest films ever made and a time-honoured favourite that just about everyone has seen at least once, but Vertigo is still a supremely grim piece of work. It's framed as a standard detective thriller, with James Stewart as Scotty Ferguson, a good cop forced into early retirement when on-the-job trauma leaves him stricken with the titular condition. However, the real meat of the film is in Scotty's ensuing obsession with a woman he is hired to watch, and following her death, the lengths he goes to make another woman look just like her. It's not love, it's control, ownership, and literal objectification. The fact that this whole scenario directly echoes Hitchcock's own well-documented fixation on beautiful blondes and the controlling demands he made of his leading ladies, it is doubtless a key part of why Vertigo is now often considered his definitive film. So, why not dive into all the lovely themes of obsession and control and the celebration of love then? It's all the same, after all, apparently. And that's our list. What other movies are perfect for a seriously goth Valentine's Day? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. I've been Ash, and this has been What Culture. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and please come back again soon for some more stinking love content. Thanks for watching.